Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. This is FPL Insight. I'm Gianni, the FPL guy, and I'm joined by Mr. Dean Jones, Football Insider. Dean, how are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. Good. Good evening. Nice to see a few people in the chat already. Hello to everybody that's joined us. Yeah, another England match night, but we decided we might as well go into the game this time because it's probably more interesting watching about FPL than it is watching England these days, isn't it?
Yeah, I was really keen to watch the build-up the other night because I was super excited. I think it was more because it was Italy, England, and I wanted to see Jules and Kelly in action. But I do feel like the appetite for England now, after that defeat, and again more boos. Sure, everyone's going to watch the game tonight, but in terms of the build-up and the excitement around the fixture, it's just so flat. I think Wembley's still a sellout though, but I guess they're all people that bought tickets a long time ago.
Yeah, it is a sellout. Yeah, and I mean it's England, Germany, isn't it? So there's always going to be that. It's a grudge match at the end of the day, and people want to be there. And you also it's a game you can take your kids to and stuff like that. So it's always going to be full. England have got to perform. They can't get booed off for a third game in a row. I mean, you can see the team at the bottom there. He's got Maguire in, but more than that, he's got Luke Shaw in again. Like Luke Shaw and Maguire still making this lineup. This, if England don't perform tonight, then Southgate is going to become under pretty intense pressure. Like obviously relegated in the Nations League. It was poor the other night against Italy. I predicted a 2-0 win, didn't I? I don't think we had two shots. Maybe Kane right at the end that managed to have two shots. But it's just so boring. It's so hard to watch. So I hope Luke Shaw surprises us. It's hard. Like Harry Maguire shouldn't be in the England team, but I don't blame him. Like this is what I find hard. Like he gets slated and slated and slated, but he's just being picked to do his job, and he's trying. He's got no confidence. He's got no form, but he's just trying, and he's just in this really, I guess, negative cycle. So on that side of the fence, him and Shaw, obviously going to be something that Germany target. So we'll have an eye on it. Once it kicks off, I'll let you all know. I've got the game on in front of me for when it starts, but I'm sure you won't miss much anyway because it's England.
Yeah, stay with us. 7 till 8 guys in the UK. Back on that selection in terms of the chat. Tomori hasn't made the squad again. Like, what's he got to do? But Chilwell as well. I look back to the Euros, and sure, Luke Shaw was good. Chilwell was one of the few outfield players that didn't get any minutes in the Euros. I don't think he made any of the squads either. Like he was just a squad man. Wasn't even there to be on the bench half the time. And what's he got to do? What has Luke Shaw hasn't played pretty much all season. Sure, Chilwell's been injured and not played a huge amount of games either. But the guy's perfect when you're playing wing backs. Us FPL fans know how good wing backs can be for FPL, right? You watch England play with wing backs, and even Reece James is limited in terms of his license to get forward. Saka played left wing back the other night. Barely crossed the halfway line. Luke Shaw he'll give you a 6 out of 10 tonight, maybe. But Chilwell will get you goals, get you assists. James will do the same if you give him license. But this Gareth wingback system doesn't give wingbacks license.
It's really weird, isn't it? Because on one side of it, he picks players that he trusts, and that's why Maguire and Shaw are in there because he's played them many times before and he trusts them. Yet he won't take a gamble on some players. Yet he will play Saka at left wing back, which ain't his position. So it's like there's this like middle ground that he won't touch. It'll go to these two extremes where Shaw doesn't play football at the moment, and Saka definitely doesn't play left back. So very strange. But don't worry, everyone. We've got FPL to distract us, so that's the good thing. And there's a few things that have gone on during this international break that are going to affect our team selections.
Yeah, I think so. Mark is with us in the chat. Good to see you there, Mark. And Kev's with us, and Tiffany, and CH, and FPL River. Matt as well. This is an interesting one. I was really surprised that Mason Mount didn't start tonight because I just look, he's not been brilliant. I don't think he deserves to be in the starting 11. I'm Mount's biggest fan. But I tweeted the other day being like, get used to it. Mount will be in the starting 11 in the World Cup because Gareth Southgate, like most managers Mount works with, every manager to date absolutely loves him. He's teacher's pet. He's brilliant on the training ground. His work rate, his intelligence on and more importantly off the ball, Mason Mount. And fans forget how good he is off the ball, which is why he's often picked by cautious managers like Southgate in a front three position. But what are our thoughts on Mount under Potter? Because I have no doubt he'll be Potter's main man, just like he was Lampard's and Tuchel's main man, and Southgate's at times. What do you reckon?
I think he'll become a good FPL pick soon. I do. I think he'll be getting back to form, and he'll find a role within that Chelsea team. I think he'll be really important to them. Like you say, for England, it's a bit of a surprise because England do lack that link. They got Rice and Bellingham in the middle, but there's nobody really to link the play from there to the forwards. And obviously, you've got Sterling and Kane and Foden, and they can drop off. Of course, they can. All three of them can drop into the hole, but I don't know. It just unbalances the shape of the team a bit. Francis says, "Do you think Bamford will play next week?" If Bamford was fit enough for long enough, he'd probably be in this England setup. Bamford back for Leeds. I think so.
He was very close, wasn't he? Just before, and then there was the postponement.
I think it's been pretty perfect for him. The fact that Leeds have had such a long break has probably worked out in his favour. Obviously, we'll be able to tell more about this on Friday's show once we start to get stuck back into club action and hearing from the clubs. But I would be surprised if Bamford wasn't available from here on,
Yeah. Good to see so many questions in the chat. Do get them in. And Nuclear Atoms is with us. I know he's on a wild card as well. We're going to be going through my wild card draft in 10, 15 minutes time, guys. And look, loads of you have enjoyed the international chat, but I've seen a comment in the chat saying, come on, where's the FPL questions? Which is funny because every time I've done streams on FPL, I used to do watch-alongs on a Saturday. Anytime we turned our attention to international football, honestly, it's all people wanted to talk about. It was like the England, but I think because England are on a bit of a downer, that's fine. Of course, we're here for FPL chat tonight. Maybe we'll do an international special in the not too distant. And guys, for the World Cup, we're thinking we're going to carry on these streams. Let us know in the comments. We're thinking about playing the official FIFA fantasy game for the first time, Dean and I. Yep. And you guys will hopefully play along with us, and we'll do streams still on Mondays and Fridays. FPL River brings up a very conversational topic this week in the community. There are loads of very good content creators. The biggest out there, Let's Talk FPL, is looking at Solanke and his wildcard team. Absolutely bonkers, in my opinion. Anyone that picks Solanke, I just don't get it. Don't do it, FPL River. You're better than that. If you want to sell Isak, Tony or Mitro, what do you reckon, Dean? You wouldn't go near Solanke, would you?
No. I mean, he's had one good season in about 4 years. Honestly, like not even on my radar. Yeah. Not even on my radar. Like absolutely no need to touch him when Tony and Mitro are in the form they are. Mitrovic has got a hat-trick for Serbia in international break. Yeah. Got Newcastle at home at the weekend. Like I'm going to go through a few of these issues in a minute. Actually, we've got a section coming up on my notebook, and Isak is one of the issues we're going to be addressing in there. But yeah, that's nuts. Don't do that.
Yeah. Okay, Isak to Tony, if you have one free transfer, would you do it? Absolutely. Tony, I think, plays Bournemouth off the top of my head. Andreas Perisic, Dalot and bench, yeah. I know Solanke's a shout too, but Solanke's not a shout. Just because one or two people tell you he is. Like, look, I don't want to slate the lad. Let's look at the team he plays for. Do you really want to invest in Bournemouth attack? And you could say, oh, he's an enabler. You know, I can get him for whatever he is, 5.8 million. I don't know. At 5.8 million, you can get some really good defenders. You can get Trippier for less.
But what's funny, what happens is everyone goes through the fixture difficulty ratings, right? And you look at Bournemouth and you're like, oh, they've got 4 greens in a row. You're forgetting that all those teams also have in their fixture, Bournemouth as a green. All those other teams are also expecting to beat Bournemouth. So, like, don't take this as like that's a guarantee of a win, because Bournemouth are not as good as Brentford. At the moment, they might be above Leicester, but I'm not convinced that by the time we get to that fixture, they'll be any better than Leicester. They got Fulham. I can assure you, Fulham are a better team than Bournemouth. And then Southampton after that is the 4th green. And Southampton are hit and miss. Like, and it's a derby. Southampton probably are a better team than Bournemouth. So be careful, guys. This Solanke love really reminds me of when everyone was getting on Matty Cash at the start of the season. Just be careful.
Yeah. I'm delighted to see a comment in the chat from Super Duper FC. It's so good. I'm going to take a photo of it and send it to my very good friend Az, who presents a show called Black Box, because Super Duper FC says, you guys are up there with Black Box, these two gents. Keep it up. Thank you very much.
That is a compliment.
That is the leading FPL pod stream out there. So to be recognised alongside as a mark for Black Box, we like that very much. And CH, you're very right to highlight. It's time to be liking people. 108 of you watching. please do hit that thumbs up, because it's this thing where it like helps the algorithm. More people see it, more people join the chat. We like that very much. Anyway, guys, we're going to be moving on. Wildcard coming up very soon, but first we got Dean's notebook. There we go. Dean, what you got for us?
Well, the first team I want to look out for is Newcastle. I think this is worth addressing. Newcastle, the draw masters at the moment of the Premier League. They come back into action against Fulham at Craven Cottage. Newcastle will be looking to get a win and will feel reasonably optimistic that, a promoted team, good opportunity for them. As we talked about, they are now without Alex Isak. He's going to be out for a few weeks with a lower leg injury, it's described as at the moment, but he is confirmed out of the next game week. Alan Saint-Maximin out of that fixture. He's still recovering from a hamstring injury. Bruno Guimaraes, doubtful as it stands. He went to international duty. He was an unused sub for Brazil when they beat Ghana 3-0. They did make quite a few changes. He had a knock and did not come on. It wasn't supposed to be anything too serious, but the fact he wasn't used is interesting. Obviously, we'll find out more once he's back in the country, but that will be complicated. So, that's 3 big players for Newcastle that you're already worrying about. The other thing to consider, Callum Wilson, I'm told, will be back for this fixture. Ooh. So that is something that does change things a little bit for Newcastle, might dig them out of a hole. Let's be honest, Callum Wilson is actually their most reliable source of goals so far this season. Yeah. Isak might be considered a better player overall, but Wilson was great. Wilson was doing very well. So Callum Wilson should be back for Newcastle. So if you are looking for someone a bit different, consider it. Wait for the presser and just make sure he's 100% ready. But Callum Wilson was in very good form before he got this knock.
Isak 7.1, Wilson 7.2. That is a sideways move you can absolutely do if you've got 0.1, or you might need a little bit more in the bank. But yeah, that works for me. I like that shout. And then obviously Tony at the similar price point.
Yeah.
Definitely Saint-Maximin at a 1 week punt. I think I saw a question come in. Don't do it. Not Saint-Max, Joel Linton. I know he's only 6 million and he did it the beans on toast, the post the other day, but no. He's a midfielder.
He's signed as a forward, but he's not a forward anymore. He was supposed to be a centre forward, but he's not.
And he wasn't very good, was he? He couldn't hit a Ballon d'Or at centre forward, and he's a very good midfielder.
No, it's exactly what Moussa Dembele did when he joined Fulham as a centre forward, and
I remember that.
And then one day they just put him into midfield as an experiment, and he turned out he's one of the best centre midfielders in the world. So that was handy. And then he joined Tottenham. That wasn't very handy, but So let's see if he can carry that too. FPL River. Wilson's a great pick when he plays. Well, this is the thing, and there's now this competition for places at Newcastle. It might be that Callum Wilson, look, he's going to be hungry. As a Fulham fan, I'm not particularly looking forward to this, to be honest, because if Wilson is fit, he's going to be so hungry to make sure that centre forward spot is his. And then Newcastle are going to have the question of, can they force Isak and Wilson into the same lineup in a few weeks' time? And maybe whoever ends up being Almiron or Saint-Maximin on the other side, whatever it ends up being, I think it would find it very hard to leave Wilson or Isak out of that lineup when they're both fit. So big test there for Newcastle coming up.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that Newcastle attack, when they're all fit and firing, will be really interesting to see. Will we see a front 2 with Saint-Max in the hole? Will it be a front 3 with Isak out wide? Wilson, if he can stay fit, is a great FPL asset. Lingani, no, not Jacob Murphy. Again, you got Ryan Fraser getting minutes, Almiron getting more minutes than most, and Murphy. They're just not options, because when they're all fit, they won't get a look in. And even when they're not fit, I still don't think Murphy will start this weekend, even with Saint-Max injured. It will be Almiron on one side, Fraser the other, and Wilson down the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. My next point on the notebook, Mo Salah. Mo Salah, everybody. Well, the man that we've mostly ditched at this stage. Everybody, I think, has jumped off. I haven't actually checked his ownership today. But anyway.
35, 40.
Is it down to 35?
Max,
okay, it's not too low then. Some people have kept faith. Well, those that have kept faith may well benefit. Mo Salah has been allowed to head home early from international duty with Egypt. That is pretty significant, and that's a big boost for Liverpool. And if you've got him in FPL, I think it's also a boost. I think this is a big fixture for Liverpool. They got Brighton. That is a fixture that Liverpool have only ever lost once in the Premier League era. They'll expect to win it here. De Zerbi's first game in charge of Brighton. Salah's scored 6 times against Brighton in the last few years. He left off on better form. If you remember, there was the Champions League game when he scored. Diogo Jota was back in the lineup. Salah was better as a result of having the familiarity, if you like, of Jota and his style of play. He tees him up better. Salah wasn't quite as withdrawn and wide when Jota was playing through the middle. If you've got the funds or the way back to him, it might be worth doing. Like I was looking at it myself today, and I was like, the only thing that holds you back is looking at his fact he's got is it Arsenal and City after this, two big games. I don't think it should really put us off too much because it's Mo Salah. It doesn't really matter who he's playing against. But I guess there's just that little bit of hesitancy because he hasn't been banging form this season. But Dawson out and moved on. No from me. It's a brave stance. It's a brave stance. I mean, I can't say that I'm not going back to Salah. I don't know if I can do it this week, but I think I'm going to be heading back there. I just think this is really interesting that he's back early and has the extra day's rest before what Liverpool should be looking at as a game they win like 3-0, to be honest.
Yeah, loads in the chat getting involved with this. Let us know, guys. Are you Team Salah or Team Sell Salah? Look, we know Brighton will have a go. Like, this new manager will, even in his first game, want to have a go at Anfield. And he's had a couple of weeks on the training ground. It's not like when a new manager comes in and they have to go, part of the bus because I haven't had any time on the grass and I don't know anything different. This guy's had a couple of weeks. And a lot of that team haven't been called up for international duty and they would have spent time together. But look, the thing with Mo Salah for me is, sure, you might not think you need him, but game week 12 is a very popular time when people are targeting getting Salah in, right? And there are a lot of owners out there that are on De Bruyne, myself included. And my very loose plan is come game week 12, De Bruyne becomes Salah. De Bruyne doesn't have a fixture. But is there an argument to say, make that switch in game week 11? Because in game week 11, De Bruyne and Salah play each other at Anfield. Would you rather Salah at Anfield versus City or De Bruyne at Anfield versus Liverpool, knowing you've already got Haaland covered? I'm not so sure what I'll do. And it might go down to the points and the performances in the games, both Champions League and Premier League leading up to that. But I'm happy to go without Salah till then. I still think, though, this weekend, if you own Mo Salah, he is the best captaincy option in the game. So if you do own Salah, give him the armband for Brighton at Anfield. I still think Haaland's a great shout. We'll talk more about captaincy later. But Salah is the number one captaincy pick for me this week. But his game week 10 fixture isn't great, and neither is his 11.
Yeah, really tough decision. But yeah, just be careful. Don't ditch him at this point either. If you've got him right now and you've kept faith with him for now, then absolutely play him and even consider captaining him. Right, just to round off this little notebook section, Hugo Lloris is worth keeping an eye on. This could have a real knock-on for the North London derby. Lloris has a small injury to his thigh. So he's been back at Tottenham's training ground, undergoing rehab, a little bit of rehab, basically, a little bit of work to try and see whether they can get him fit in time for that first game back. If Lloris can't get fit, then Fraser Forster will be going for Tottenham. It'll be his debut.
Wildcard. What's his price?
It'll be his debut. So this is one to look out for. We'll find out probably Thursday. I think we'll probably know Thursday if Lloris is going to be fit. That's when we should have a better indication of how he is. It wasn't a bad injury. It was a small problem. So they've always been hopeful that because they got him back quickly and be able to work on him, it should be all right. But if there's a risk, there's a risk, and they won't be able to take it in a game like that. And it would mean, as I say, that Forster, one of those famous 7 signings that were supposed to be so great at the start of the season, makes his debut in a massive, massive fixture. And if that's the case, and you were thinking of ditching like Martinelli, or you were thinking of ditching Gabby Jesus, maybe think again. Maybe. Obviously, Fraser Forster's still a good goalkeeper. Like, he's not a mug just because he's the number 2. But it's not Hugo Lloris. So it changes the whole dynamic of the defence in front of him, the communication, the understanding, as well as the fact he's playing in such a big game.
Yeah, I do love that for many reasons. Yeah, Arsenal attackers, but also for those on a wild card that want a 4.0. If we got news that Lloris was out for a few weeks, you might go and get a Spurs goalkeeper for 4.0 here.
Yeah.
And I only need to carry him till November anyway when we have the unlimited transfers.
Yeah,
but we'd have to know he
absolutely.
was out for a fair few weeks, I guess.
Yeah, and it's also like I think we have to beware too. Any player that gets injured at the moment is going to be super, super cautious.
Yeah.
We're basically, if you get a knock now that keeps you out for 6 weeks, could keep you out of the World Cup squad. So nobody who's got a small injury is going to be playing with small damage because they know that if they stretch it too far, they're out the World Cup. So that's another thing to consider about the fact that, yeah, there's not going to be the risk factor that players take anyway. It's going to be cagey. Some players are really, really going to be limiting the amount of not effort that they're willing to put in, but I guess the type of risk that they'll put in.
Yeah, guys, I'm loving the chat. You're all talking amongst yourselves, which is brilliant, and also asking some very good questions. We'll get to as many as we can in our dedicated Q&A later in the show. But next up, it's time for Chips and Tips. Tips and chips, chips and tips, tomato. Which players are a priority, says Nuclear, to bring in for game week 9 wildcarders? Nuclear's on a wildcard. Well, Nuclear, let's have a look, because just for you, we have put together Gianni's wildcard draft in game week 9.
What a treat. See, loyalty pays off, Nuclear. Look at that.
Yeah. I like this draft a lot. However, I'm going to caveat it with, it's not massively different from my game week 8 wildcard draft. What does that mean? I don't know. Does it mean you should have gone earlier? Does it mean we learnt much in game week 8? I have gone from a 3 attacking premium players in my 8 wildcard, where I had Kane, Haaland and De Bruyne, to a 2 and it does allow me then a few more mid-price players, your Madisons, your Tonys. But let's just start very loosely. I still think double Newcastle defence is on. I know there's a lot of talk around going for a budget keeper, but none of those 4.5s massively impress. And I do think Pope is worth the extra funds. And sure, look, Newcastle conceded to Bournemouth, but that was the lowest expected goals against them they had all season. Those that went double Newcastle game week 8 were unlucky that Bournemouth did get that goal. And then, look, in terms of Liverpool assets, sure, this is a no Salah draft. I still think you want to cover one Liverpool player that we're going to be wanting to get income game week 12 to save yourselves all those transfers later. Therefore, Trent is in. Because I do think coming 12 onwards, we'll all want Salah and Trent, and getting them both might be difficult. So let's start with one of them. Cancelo, Reece are locks. The Arsenal players are really tricky here. I sold Jesus and Zinchenko in 8, and I kept Martinelli. I still think there's an argument to keep Martinelli from 9 onwards, despite those fixtures being tough. Bearing in mind, Martinelli doesn't have a fixture in game week 12. Neither do my 3-man City. So come game week 12, currently, I've got 4 players without a fixture. That will have to change. But of course, I'll plan to sell De Bruyne to Salah by then. Budget midfielders, Bailey and Andreas, bench fodder. But that front 3 is nice, Dean. It means no Spurs attack. And there's a few comments in the chat. No Son. I could have had Son instead of De Bruyne. I could go Kane instead of Tony, like my actual team. I think it's worth spreading the funds because I just feel like Maddison, Tony, Mitro, having those 3 7 to 8 million pound players at the moment, those guys are delivering like premiums. So I kind of want them all in.
They are. You're exactly right. They are delivering like premiums. And if they weren't at the clubs that they're at, then they certainly wouldn't be at those prices either. So I think that's, as you say, like that's an informed wild card right now. Like, Gareth Southgate, we talked about at the start, like he's ignoring form because he should be picking Tony and Maddison to liven up the England side. Like if he's picking players in form, he should be doing exactly that. And we are playing for points in FPL and individual points. And because of that, there is big reason to be considering Maddison, Tony, and then Mitro too, obviously Serbian. But there we go. Maddison is one I'm definitely considering for this week. I got Bernardo in just before the last fixture, and he got me some points, but I don't fancy him too much for the Manchester derby. Probably would be fine. Could potentially cut of points, but I'm tempted to switch. I've got a bit in the bank, and I could get quite easily across to Maddison, and then hold back for when I want Salah back. So yeah, I think that Maddison will be the guy that most people turn to. I've seen in our comment section and elsewhere a lot of people giving a lot of love to Harvey Barnes. It's one to consider. I mean, Maddison's the most informed player at Leicester. He's their best player. Leicester are really up against it. They've got a massive fixture coming up against Nottingham Forest. It could be the game that decides whether or not they stick with Brendan Rodgers. It could be the game that turns around their season if they can pull off a win. Leicester not won a game all season. They are rock bottom of the Prem. It's not looking good, but there have been pretty small margins. Like the games have been, I know we said before, you look at 5-2, 6-2, looks like they've been smashed. They haven't actually. Those games have just got away from them at moments when actually they were on a knife edge and then they've lost the next goal and then it's kind of tumbled from there. So I think Maddison will be the guy that most people opt for this week with their transfers.
Yeah, I must admit, I think he's had more transfers in than any other player. He's a player I've considered trying to get into my actual team. It requires a little bit too much surgery. You just can't have them all. Mitrovic, there's been a lot of chat in the community. He got his hat trick. I don't know. I think maybe, I've not checked this, I think he maybe went off. He got substituted in the game. And because of that, I know there was a lot of rumours that, he's injured. But there's been nothing confirmed off the back of that.
Yeah, I mean,
he limped off. Nothing but a knock.
He limped off, and I didn't actually watch the game, but obviously I'm a Fulham fan, so I follow quite a few Fulham accounts and stuff. And the general feeling is like it was a precaution. It was a small knock, a small problem. And given it's so early on, the game's still not until Saturday, there was an expectation that like it didn't look anything too sinister. So
he plays Norway tomorrow night. Hopefully he's rested.
Yeah, I mean, if any, they won't risk him for that, surely. If he's playing in that game, I'll be fuming.
Haaland versus Mitro.
Oh, dear.
It'll be interesting to see if both players play. I don't know what the state of their group is currently like. I'll have a look in a sec and update you guys. But Serbia-Norway, I don't know if there's promotional relegation in that tie where they have to put everyone out. But do look at the minutes of your players, guys, in all these internationals. Keep an eye on them. But yeah, that fixture tomorrow night, Serbia versus Norway, is one to definitely have an eye on if those guys do start.
Yeah, absolutely.
FPL River asked about Zaha, and he has had a huge amount of love. Booking in a transfer for Zaha game week 10. He obviously plays Chelsea game week 9, but game week 10, Palace, in terms of all the fixture tickers, they're up there at the very, very top. Now, if you're going to buy Palace players, there's a few looking at Guaita, there's a few looking at Anderson in defence, or even a Gahey at 4.3. Palace defence has been poor this season. Palace attack, however, you always back Wolf to have a go, don't you? And the fixtures are there. It's Leeds, Leicester, Wolves, Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Forest, Fulham, Bournemouth. Like, it's an unbelievable run. But it's a lot of money, 7.0. I still prefer Maddison to Zaha. A bit more expensive.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because Zaha, he's more of a goal scorer than Maddison. And Chelsea's an interesting one. It's obviously the hardest game they've got in the next 5 or 6. But Chelsea were quite interested in signing Zaha, and it's always that temptation to think like, right, is he going to turn it on here? Like Palace, home to Chelsea. Chelsea still getting to grips with a new manager. It's potential here for Zaha to have a real go at them. I'd be tempted. Like now that you mention it, like I might weigh up going Bernardo to him, especially looking at the fact he's got Leeds, Leicester, Wolves, Everton, Southampton in the games that follow. Like that is a really nice run of games for Zaha.
Yeah, and it could very easily be done with this team, guys. A few have said, put Zaha in. If I did, it'd be very easy to go Martinelli out to Zaha. You save that 0.7 you need by Trippier going down to a 4.5. So Trippier to a 4.5 defenders, of which there are lots of good options. Take your pick. You might even want to go down to a 4.3 Mark Gahey and save some funds. And then Martinelli to Zaha. Martinelli is an interesting one. What to do with Arsenal assets? Most are selling your Jesus's and your Salibas. What do we think with Martinelli, Dean? Like, we've both got him in our actual teams. I've put him in this wildcard draft. He's on corners from one side. He hasn't been a rotation risk. He has been scoring goals, but he's been a bit shot shy of late. But knowing it's Spurs, Liverpool, Leeds, then blank, it's not great.
It's not great.
You will have money tied up in him. You probably paid 6, a lot paid 6 for him, and he's now 6.6 or whatever. So
yeah. I mean, I paid a bit more than 6, but those next two games, I'm not really expecting returns.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
based on what
not.
we've seen so far, I can't expect returns really from him, like in the last few weeks. So, um, I'm tempted to jump off. I guess at the start there, I was talking about getting rid of Bernardo. Maybe I should be looking at getting rid of Martinelli instead. To be honest, maybe that's what I should be doing. I'd be interested to hear in the comments what people think I should do there. Who would you ditch, Bernardo or Martinelli? Bernardo, obviously, it doesn't really matter who Man City play, does it? But after Man United, got Southampton, Liverpool, and then there is break. So that there is that to counter into as to why I would consider that. But obviously, Martinelli has exactly the same problem. So one of them's going to have to go. Don't know, tough one that.
Yeah, I think so. It's hard because after that blank in 12, Martinelli plays Southampton, then Forest. Like that two fixtures, you definitely will want Arsenal attacking, and then it's Chelsea Wolves. Yeah, Haley. Good question here because you're thinking a bit creativity, Haley, and I like that. Kane and Bowen. So the fact, yeah, okay. Or De Bruyne and Aubameyang. That's a really interesting pick, Aubameyang. I still feel like we need to see a goal or two to see that he's going to be a lock in that team, to see that Potter likes him. One thing we know from Potter at Brighton is he was never set on his number 9. Now, was that because he didn't have the tools there? Mopai and Welbeck, and we saw a few players come in. Trossard play false 9 a bit. Or is it he doesn't really like having that set focal point in attack, and he likes a few players coming in and out, and Sterling will take up those positions, and Havertz will take up those positions, and Aubameyang might. But with that in mind, I prefer the Kane and Bowen angle, but without Bowen, I would go Kane and Maddison or Kane and Zaha.
Yeah, no temptation for me to go with Bowen at the moment either, but yeah, that's the side of it to be on, I think.
The Bowen is a little bit like Solanke is one I'm struggling to get my head around why people are flocking there. And I guess it's because Solanke is the price point. I get that. But Bowen is more what we saw last season. But let's go off this season. West Ham are not a team that are going to score 2+ goals in a game, in a Premier League game. They've not scored more than 1 in the Premier League all season in a single match. So don't spend 7+ on one of their players.
And they've got Wolves next at home, and Wolves, I know they're not playing well, but they don't concede goals really. So it's very, very tight games they've been involved in. So not really reason to believe that there's going to be more than 1 or 2 goals in that entire fixture.
Yeah, exactly that. Good stuff. Keep your questions coming in, guys. And also hit that like button if you can. We've got 55 likes so far. I know there's people out there that are liking what they're seeing. So do hit that button. And also, if you're not subscribed, then do hit that subscribe button. I don't know how many subs. We're on 3.34K, which is awesome. Like our plan at the start of the season was to get to, I think, 2,000. So we absolutely smashed that. We're a new channel and we really appreciate your support. We genuinely do. Paul has asked loads of questions in the chat tonight. Paul, sorry, can't get to all of them. Salah Bailey, okay, for KDB and Martinelli. Okay, so I have 3 of those players in this draft, but you're saying you'd go Salah and Bailey. Oh, should you make that move? Don't back Bailey to start. That's the only thing. Bringing Bailey in is fine. For people saying, oh, I don't like the look of Bailey, there's a few comments I've seen. Guys, he's 4.7 million. You need players to sit on your bench, right? That's all he is. And if he has to come in, then yeah, he's playing in a front 3 for a team that are pretty average, but that's fine. He's 4.7. But Paul, if you need someone to start week in, week out, I wouldn't want to put him in my 11 every week. So it depends how your squad's set up.
Yeah, he's got a bit between his teeth, though. He does seem very motivated. Foden instead of KDB and Kane for Tony. Look, I mean, I've got Kane instead of Tony right now. Foden instead of KDB.
Okay, yeah. So it's Foden and Kane or KDB and Tony.
Yeah. I think Foden instead of KDB might be okay for this, considering it's a Manchester derby. It's hard. So we've got to remember, the best combination at the moment in the Premier League is KDB to Haaland. So, but that is obviously a very expensive duo to own, and not many people are going to get it and stick with it. But so you've got to go one or the other. I'm presuming you've already got Haaland. So if you've already got Haaland, and you're not probably going to miss out. And in fact, you might pick up a bonus by having Foden when he does start turning up regularly. Like Foden, don't know if he signed it yet, but he's on the verge of a new contract at City. He's buzzing. He's looking happy and comfortable. He's a regular now with England.
Yeah.
It's a big season for Foden, and I think he's going to flourish. He's seeing that Grealish is starting to break through as well. Like, there is a rotation risk, I think, but I would imagine Foden will play for this one. I think Foden's okay to go with that. I'd go Foden and Kane, yeah.
I'm a KDB owner, but yeah, I can see why you'd want to go there. I and my team here have gone De Bruyne and Tony, so I guess that shows where I'm slightly veering towards. Mohamed, you had such a good year last year.
He's ready to quit on us now. Look at him.
He's having, guys, you cannot. Yeah, look, FPL, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? And sure, there's a lot of people that have had slow starts. And look, I've seen a lot of good friends give up in their FPL season in October because they've had a few slow months. What I would say, this game can change so quickly. It does mean you might need to think about a little bit outside the box, Mohamed. There's no point in going template if you're ranked 5 million in the world, right? So look, have a little bit of fun with it. Maybe don't captain Haaland every week. Maybe consider going Son and Kane, or, you know, some nice combinations. I like doing that. That's my top tip, is look at combinations. So go De Bruyne and Haaland, or go Son and Kane, or go Salah and Diaz, and back that team to go big with a double up in attack.
Yeah, I know the feeling though. Like, it is disheartening when things aren't going well. Trust me, it's usually me. It probably will still be me in a few weeks' time. Right,
I don't know, you're having a good season.
Okay. What's your take on Fofana when he play?
He's not an FPL asset yet, despite his price. I know he's 4.4, and look, surely he's going to become part of Chelsea's 11. But for the time being, guys, you can't pick him because we simply don't know what Potter wants to do with that back three. One guy we know will start every week is Cucurella. So that, and I think Thiago Silva will start more often than not. So right centre back could be Fofana, it could be Koulibaly, it could be Piazpi.
Yeah, absolutely that. Yeah, Cucurella's fine. What's the word on Rashford? Well, there isn't yet. He's had a chance to have a break. It wasn't a serious injury. I imagine he's back in the frame. I wouldn't be bothered about playing him anyway, particularly for this first game back against Man City. You know, Rashford, he's doing better this season. I still wouldn't say he's like on fire. But after that Manchester derby, you got Everton, Newcastle, Tottenham, and I think, you know, if Rashford is showing signs, if he starts that Manchester derby, if he comes on in that Manchester derby, then maybe you can consider him after that point. But we'll find out at the end of the week what Rashford's status is. But I don't think it really matters. I'm not sure that Rashford's going to have much joy in that one.
Yeah, Patterson, Daka, John. It's hard to tell because Iheanacho could be in 1 week, Daka the next, Vardy the next. So just sit tight. If you want to go Leicester, has to be Maddison. Guys, I'm going to revert back to this wildcard draft because I feel like there's a few players we've probably not discussed that should be on all of our radars that might appeal to the masses here. So look, Reece James is a player I've put in. Is this someone you would go for, Dean? I can't remember. Do you own Reece?
Yeah, I've got Reece James. Yeah.
You happy there? I think he's the only Chelsea player I would go. You still have to have, because Potter wingbacks sky high, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's the only Chelsea player I've got at the moment. I was thinking earlier, like, would I want maybe Sterling? He's just 10 million's quite a lot, and it's a bit in between here to get to. So I probably will leave that one, but I think Sterling's the only other one that could possibly tempt me at the moment. But Reece James is in there, and he's staying in there for me.
Yeah, nice. Cheers for your question, though, John, on Daka. Say a double Everton goalkeepers. Yeah, Begovic is 4.0. Pickford's what? 4.5. It's a cheap route. The Everton fixtures are good. And what we've seen from Everton is just had a clean sheet against West Ham, just had a clean sheet against Liverpool, Southampton up next. Sure, they've got United and Spurs up after that, but Everton defence, knowing they've signed Tarkowski, knowing they've signed Cody, it's good Premier League centre-backs, and we're seeing some clean sheets.
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Everton's, trusting them, but I see where you're coming from. Thinking about either going with Trent or keeping Tony on wildcard. Opinions. Not sure how they're related.
They're similar price points, aren't they? If it depends. I guess it means you would shift your formation. You go for Fodder and up front, and Trent, or Fodder at the back and Tony.
Well, look, Trent's going to be motivated. Like, he's out of this England team tonight. He'll be annoyed that he's not being considered. at that level. I think he'll be annoyed too that he keeps getting slated for his defending. He'll make up for it with what he can do attacking wise, and he's still going to end up as one of the highest point scorers in the game over the course of the season. Tony is in form, but like everyone seems to have Tony at the moment, where a lot of people have come away from Trent. So it depends which side you want to go on. If you don't want to miss the points, then probably go on Tony. If you're willing to kind of go somewhere a bit different, then maybe go with Trent. I know that like it says the flip in terms of like selected by, but I feel like it's reverted to anyone that's doing a wild card this week is more likely to put Tony in their team than Trent.
Yeah. Guys, I do think we will want those Liverpool players. When I say Liverpool assets, we will want Trent and Salah, all of us from 12 onwards. So my advice, if you're on a wild card, is try and have one of those and save on those transfers, because every week you might plot your transfers and go, I can have Trent and Salah in game week 13, no problem at all. But I don't need them now. But those planned moves you make, things will happen, injuries, suspensions, whatever. So having one is optimal, I would say, and having Trent is easier than having Salah at this point in regards to funds.
Yeah.
Lungani says about Bernardo Silva. One for you, Dean.
Yeah, now we're after Manchester Derby, and I see someone else, Damien, says, why not Kane and Bernardo? And Bernardo has a good record against United. I mean, I'm loving this because now I become more convinced as this show goes on that this is actually the moment for me to ditch Martinelli and get him gone for that blank game week and start to go somewhere else. Like I can go to Maddison from Martinelli this week or Zaha, whichever one I want, and keep Bernardo Silva. So yeah, maybe that seems to be, look, if this is what the community says, I trust it.
Punters with us, my American friend. Tony for Jesus. Okay. Yeah, a lot are selling Jesus. I did last week. Annoyingly. Maddison for Diaz. Ooh, I'd want Maddison in. I think this week I would go after Maddison over Tony. Look, they both got very good fixtures, both this week and moving forward. I still think Maddison. I just think Look, they're two very good attacks. I always come back to this when looking at players. It's look at the team, which is why I don't get Solanke or Bowen, because I'm like, I'm not backing West Ham to score goals. I'm certainly never backing Bournemouth to score goals. Well, Brentford, this season especially, loads of goals in them. And for the same reason, I'd never buy a Brentford defender now. They moved to a back four. They're shipping goals all over the place. But Tony at Brentford, Maddison at Leicester attack. Always want to invest in that. Would never invest in their defence. So look, two very good picks, dude. I'd go for either of those. I'd target both over the next couple of weeks if they're two players you like.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Multi says, I have Kane, Haaland, and Jesus. Is Jesus to Mitro worth a -4? Probably not. I don't know. No, I don't think I'd take a -4 to get there. I mean, I'd swap him if it was on normal terms, probably, but it's not that I get much of a guarantee. I mean, he's got Newcastle. Like I'm hoping I want him to score, but not backing him that heavily over Jesus. I'm afraid I would probably steer clear of that one.
Yeah. Laura, Perisic news. Yeah, as Perisic played the other night, he did the old when Højbjerg fouled him. Let's wait and see. For me, it's all about look, press conference on a Friday and this stream on a Friday. Dean has good insight on Tottenham, so we'll let you know. But also, who are Croatia playing and when are they playing is always are they playing tonight or they're playing tomorrow? If it's tomorrow, then again you wait and see. So you just go, oh, okay, he hasn't made the squad. Now I'm concerned. So just wait and see what you get from that Croatian team.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Right. Do you think Everson in the first 11 finally? It's been my sub keeper all season. No. I don't.
He's
think
loyal to Ward, isn't he, Rodgers?
He's really
paid
loyal
10 million for him as well. He paid a lot of money for him.
Like, seems to like Ward. Seems to not think that that's the problem. Probably isn't the problem, to be honest. Not the reason that Leicester are where they are. He's not as good as Schmeichel, but he's considered to be the best of the bunch right now. So no, I think that Ward continues.
Yeah. Gundogan to Salah or Bailey to Zaha. wow, you got a lot of money in the bank. I'd bring Salah in, I think, for this week, and I'd captain him.
Yeah.
Gundogan's a massive minutes risk now. It's Gundogan or Bernardo, and Bernardo's definitely the favourite.
Yeah, Gundogan just been on my screen. Gundogan is starting tonight for Germany against England, so get that on right now and keep an eye on Gundogan if you own him. Right, what about Aubameyang? Yeah, we touched on this earlier, Paul. I don't think we're that convinced about Aubameyang at this stage. Need to see what his role is going to be in a Potter team. He wasn't brought in under this manager. We don't know. Is he going to play wide? Is he going to play through the middle? How quickly is he going to fit into this style of football? Someone else in the chat earlier said, "Don't forget the Chelsea 9 is cursed." So yeah, let's wait and see. I think that's quite a big punt to go Aubameyang.
Dean, I said earlier in the show, I'd look at the Nations League. They're in the Group B, Group 4 of the round sort of Group B. Norway and Serbia both tied on 10 points. They play tomorrow night. Mitrovic versus Haaland. The winner takes all. The winner gets promoted. I think because of that, Haaland definitely starts. And look, if Mitrovic is fit, he's definitely going to play. So Serbia-Norway tomorrow night could be huge with an FPL standpoint. Norway-Serbia both locked on 10 points. Winner will be promoted to that Group 1 to play the likes of Italy and Germany and all the big European nations.
Don't play Mitro. Don't do it. Club over country, mate. Club over country.
Oh, Colm, good question about our Leeds kid. He starts for Italy tonight.
Is he starting, is he? Came on the other day, didn't he?
Yeah, he came on. He starts up front. I think Leeds paid 4.5 million for him. So yeah, he starts up front with Raspadori. So two little uns up top for Italy instead of Scamacca, who's obviously like big target man. When will he become a good FPL asset? When we see him do some stuff off the bench, like he's going to be eased in slowly.
I think back end of the season, basically. I think like Jesse Marsh will be keeping a close eye on how Mancini uses him.
Yeah.
And he'll be very interested to see how he does as a starter for sure. But I think we'll start to see him get a few more minutes. But yeah, he'll be an impact player between now and the World Cup, and then they'll probably assess it during that time.
And Mark says he looks really small for the Prem. No, honestly, like, yeah, short maybe, but the guy is built like he's strong and like low center of gravity. Eden Hazard was a similar height. He was built for the Prem. He's not built like a Phil Foden, who's way more slight, would weigh a lot less. So yeah, don't worry about
that. Yeah. Right. Barnes versus Forest and Bournemouth in game weeks 9 and 10. I mean, it's the same argument as Maddison. But we point out, like, Leicester are the worst team right now in the Premier League. Like, they have won nothing. Literally, they haven't won a game. So, in normal terms, if this was Leicester of last season, I'd be, like, all over it. But, it's a really tough game. And, we'll have to wait and see in that fixture against Forest. Like, will Leicester go for it? Will they try to really prove that they shouldn't be in this situation? That it's not a fair reflection of how good the team are? Or the longer that game's on, will they get cagey and nervous and don't get the points that the players probably would be hoping for? I personally wouldn't go for Harvey Barnes, but they are two good fixtures, like, generally speaking.
Yeah, they are. Look, if you're going to go for a Leicester player, it has to be Mads. Find the extra money. If you're looking at the double up, I don't hate it because I do think that Leicester team, as I keep saying, will score goals. But yeah, Barnes is also a minutes risk, by the way, guys. Like, don't be surprised if Rodgers does something wacky and goes and plays a front two again, and it's Iheanacho and Vardy up top with Maddison in the hole. So yeah, Maddison or it has to be your priority. Must have is strong. Must have for you, Mohammed, maybe because you're having a poor season. But no, if you can get to him, do. But he's not a must-have. No one is other than Haaland.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Thoughts on United? Well, it says players. I don't think he's talking about the Glazers. I think he's talking about the players. So I'm going to assess the players rather than the Glazers. Look, I mean, Jadon Sancho not in the England squad, so it's going to be fresh. It's been looking good this season. I still have him on my watch list as like someone that I can see me getting in this season. I think England made a mistake by not picking Jadon Sancho personally. And I think that he's going to have a point to prove. Beyond that, I mean, Eriksen's Ericsson's an interesting one for me just because of the way that he's conducting play on a few set pieces. He's proved to be a really good signing so far. I'm not convinced enough from an FPL point of view yet to pick him, but it's an interesting one. And Anthony is going to be the one, I guess, that we all keep an eye on too in terms of his breakout in the Premier League. He's going to be hit and miss for now. So there's no one really at Man United that I think you should be desperate for.
Yeah, agreed. Fabianski or Zuma. Look, West Ham defence over time will be a fairly reliable option. Fabianski's not cheap. Zuma is. I think he's 4.3. So nuclear, I don't mind the Zuma pick at all. He plays every minute. Good set piece threat. Zuma would be the one. And on this wildcard draft we're looking at, Trippier could be Zuma. Martinelli could be Zaha quite comfortably.
Yeah. All right, Lewis says, I'm trying to get rid of Odegaard due to a blank game week 12. Should I bring in Sinistera? We haven't talked about him in this entire show, have we, Sinistera?
It's a nice punt. I like him.
Yeah, I do like him. I think he's got something about him. He is, when they were looking for a Rafinha replacement, it looks like they found someone very similar in terms of he's a game changer. He's got a bit about him, a bit of craft. So it'd be an exciting one to have. It's probably more exciting, to be honest, than Odegaard in some ways.
Yeah. Lewis, I'm trying to get rid of Odegaard. We just did. Yeah, Kev. Okay, keep Foden or sell to Maddison. As much as I would want Maddison in, Foden for me in the United. Given the option, if you had all the transfers in the world, you're on a free hit, you're on a wild card, Maddison over Foden would be my move. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just about. It's a really tough call, but man, there's so much to consider this week, isn't there? Like you're coming back off the internationals, and like it'll get to Thursday, and then we'll have a much better idea of where we're at. And Friday's show, everyone, is going to be a big one because we're actually going to have some proper team news and some proper insight on what these lineups are going to be. Yeah. So if you're wildcarding, like obviously, like you can mess around with it for now, but you're not really going to nail down your team at this moment in time. There's too many international fixtures left. England, Germany's underway. They've played 5 minutes. Pleased to say England have not conceded a goal, so it's 0-0. So, we'll have to wait and see what Friday holds.
Yeah, it was lovely to have so many with us tonight. We had 220 at one point. We're down to 159 now. I'm guessing loads want to watch that football match, which we will be going off to watch. Before you leave, though, guys, do hit that like button and, of course, subscribe. But more importantly, as Dean says, we're back on Friday, 7 p.m, getting back into proper FPL mode at the end of the week. Dean will have his team news, his predicted 11s. We'll be showing our teams. We'll be talking about the transfers you've got to go for. We'll have loads of roundups from those press conferences. So stay with us for Friday's show at 7. But for now, guys, he's been Dean, I've been Gianni, and we've been chasing green arrows.